There is a particular kind of wound that almost no one knows how to talk about, because it happened in the one place that was supposed to be safe. You may carry it tonight. Maybe there is a building you cannot drive past without a knot tightening in your stomach, a building where you once felt at home. Maybe there are songs you used to sing with your whole heart that now catch in your throat, because they are tangled up with people who hurt you. Maybe you flinch a little when someone says the word church, or when a certain name comes up, or when you remember how it felt to belong somewhere you no longer can. You went looking for God among His people, and instead of finding shelter, you found judgment, or betrayal, or a leader who abused the trust you gave them, or a community that turned on you, or a quiet, devastating message that you did not belong. And the cruelest part of all is that it was done in God's name, by people who claimed to speak for Him, so that now the wound and the God are all tangled together, and you cannot quite tell where the people who hurt you end and where God begins. If that is your wound tonight, if you have been hurt by the church, betrayed by people you trusted as your spiritual family, pushed out, judged, wounded by the very ones who were supposed to show you the love of God, then I want to sit with you for this hour, very gently. Not to defend the people who hurt you, and not to rush you back through a door that is still bleeding for you, but to tell you something you may have lost sight of in the pain. That God is not the people who wounded you in His name. That He saw what was done to you, and He is not on their side. He is on yours. And that the one you went looking for in that place has not given up on you, even though His people did, and has a long history of going to find the very ones the religious crowd cast out. So stay with me. Let me sit with you in this wound that so few understand. And let me say at the very start what I will not do, so you can trust me through the rest of this hour. I am not going to make excuses for the people who hurt you. I am not going to tell you that they meant well, or that you must have misunderstood, or that you should simply forgive and march back through the door as if nothing happened. Some wounds are minor misunderstandings, but many are not. Some of you were genuinely betrayed, genuinely abused, genuinely cast out, and I will not insult that by minimizing it. And I am also not going to tell you that the answer is to throw away God along with the people who wronged you, because that would only let them take from you the one thing that could actually heal you. What I will do is hold both truths at once, that the wound was real and grievous and not your fault, and that the God you went looking for in that place is not the same as the people who failed you there, and is even now looking for you. Holding those two truths together is the whole work of this hour, and it is the path, the only path I know, back to wholeness without the loss of your faith. Let me begin by naming what church hurt is like, because part of its loneliness is that so many people do not understand it, and some will even tell you that you should not feel it. It is the violation of a place that was supposed to be safe. We can brace ourselves for hurt from the world, from strangers, from people we never trusted. But the church is the one place you came with your guard down, your heart open, expecting to be loved, expecting to be safe, expecting that here, of all places, you would be cared for in the name of God. And when the wound comes from there, it lands on an undefended heart, in the very place you would let down your walls. And that is why it goes so deep. The hurt that comes wrapped in the language of God, delivered by people who held themselves up as His representatives, gets past every defense, because you never thought you needed one there. And there is a second cruelty layered on top of the first, that the wound came mixed with something sacred, so that you cannot simply file it away as an ordinary betrayal. When a coworker wrongs you, it is painful, but it stays in its own compartment. You do not have to wonder what it means about the universe. But when the wound comes from the house of God, from people invoking the name of the one you were trying to love and serve, it cannot be quarantined, because it touches the holiest things, the things you had built your life and your hope upon. It is one thing to lose trust in a person. It is another, far heavier thing, to feel that trust in God Himself shaken because of what a person did in His name. That is why church hurt is not just one more disappointment. It strikes at the foundation, at the very place you had anchored your soul, and the ground itself seems to move. If you have felt that, the dizzying sense that the wound reached all the way down to the things you thought were unshakable, you are not overreacting. You are responding exactly as a person would when the harm comes from the one place that was supposed to be bedrock. It is the betrayal by people you trusted as family. Church, at its best, becomes a kind of family. People you prayed with, cried with, served alongside. People you believed had your back, who shared the deepest things with you. And so when they turn, when they gossip, when they abandon you, when they take sides against you, it is not the betrayal of acquaintances, it is the betrayal of family, of people who knew your heart and used what they knew, or simply walked away when you needed them. The closer the bond, the deeper the cut, and few bonds feel closer than the ones formed in shared faith. To be betrayed by your spiritual family is one of the loneliest betrayals there is. And it often comes with a second loss hidden inside the first, the loss of all the people who stayed. When a family like that fractures, you rarely lose just the one who wronged you. You lose the whole web. The friends who chose sides, the ones who fell silent, the people who had shared your table and your prayers, and who now look away when they see you, or who believed the version of events that made you the villain. You did not just lose a relationship, you lost a community, a belonging, a whole network of faces that had been your world, and most of them never even heard your side. That compounding loneliness of being wounded by one and then abandoned by many, of becoming overnight an outsider to the people who had been your closest circle, is one of the heaviest parts of church hurt. And it is a real bereavement, a grief as real as any death, except that no one brings a meal or sends a card for the loss of a church family, and you are left to grieve it alone and unacknowledged. If that is part of your wound, know that the size of your grief is not out of proportion. You lost a great deal. It is right to mourn it. It is the particular horror of trust abused by someone in spiritual authority. For some of you, the wound came from a leader, a pastor, a teacher, someone you trusted not just as a person, but as a representative of God, someone whose words carried spiritual weight. And when that trust was abused, when power was misused, when you were manipulated or shamed or controlled or worse, all under the covering of spiritual authority, the damage reaches into the deepest places. Because it was not only a person who betrayed you, it was a person who claimed to stand in the place of God. That kind of wound can make the very voice of God feel unsafe, because the voice you trusted as His turned out to be a weapon. If that is your wound, hear this clearly. What was done to you was a grievous evil, and it was not your fault. And God is not pleased with the one who did it. He is angry on your behalf. And let me say something specifically to those who were made to feel that submission to that leader was the same as submission to God. because this is one of the most damaging lies that spiritual abuse uses. You may have been taught that questioning the leader was questioning God, that resisting their control was rebellion against the Lord, that your discomfort was your own sin, so that every instinct that should have warned you was reframed as faithlessness. That is how spiritual abuse keeps its victims trapped. It captures the very conscience that would otherwise cry out and turns it against you. Hear the truth plainly. No human being, no matter their title or their charisma or their claims, stands in the place of God over your soul. Your conscience, your sense that something was wrong, was not rebellion. It was very often the Spirit of God Himself trying to protect you. The leader who demanded the kind of loyalty that belongs only to God was not representing God. They were usurping His place, and the discomfort you felt was holy. You were not faithless to pull away. You were finally listening to the God they had tried to drown out. And there is an aftershock to this kind of wound that often goes unnamed, which is the loss of trust in your own judgment. When someone you admired and trusted turns out to have been deceiving or using you, you do not only lose them, you lose a little of your confidence in yourself, because you ask, how did I not see it? How did I let myself be fooled? How did I pour my trust and my years into something so wrong without realizing? You begin to second-guess your own discernment, to wonder if you can trust your own heart, your own read on people, your own sense of what is true. That self-doubt can be one of the most disabling parts of the whole thing, because it makes you afraid to trust again, afraid even to trust God, since your trust seems to have failed you so badly before. Hear this. Being deceived by a skilled deceiver is not a failure of your intelligence or your worth. The most sincere and good-hearted people are often the easiest to fool, precisely because they assume others share their sincerity. Your trust was not foolish. It was given in good faith to someone who betrayed it. And the fault for that lies entirely with the betrayer, not with the one who trusted. You are not broken for having believed, and your capacity to trust, wounded as it is now, can heal, and can learn to attach itself first to the one who will never, ever prove false. It is being pushed out, cast aside, made to feel you do not belong. Maybe no one abused you outright. Maybe it was subtler. The cold shoulder, the exclusion, the slow message that you were too broken, too questioning, too different, too much, that you did not fit, that you were welcome only if you performed a certain way. Maybe you were judged for your struggles instead of loved through them, made to feel that the very place that should have carried you in your weakness was disgusted by it. And so you drifted away, or you were quietly frozen out, and you lost not just a building, but a whole world of belonging, all at once. And there is a special cruelty in being judged for the very wounds you came hoping would be healed. The church is supposed to be the one place where the broken can come as they are, where the struggling find help rather than condemnation, where, as the saying goes, the wounded are not shot. And yet, for so many, it became the opposite. The place where their divorce was whispered about, where their doubts were treated as dangerous, where their addiction, or their depression, or their failures, or their questions made them a project to be fixed, or a problem to be managed, rather than a person to be loved. You came limping, hoping to be carried, and instead you were inspected and found wanting. You showed your wound, and instead of binding it up, they recoiled from it. That is a betrayal of the deepest purpose of what the church is meant to be. And if that happened to you, the failure was entirely theirs, not yours. There was nothing wrong with you for coming broken. That is exactly who the church exists for. The wrongness was all in a people who had forgotten what they were for. And it is the way the whole thing tangles up your faith, so that you can no longer tell the people apart from God. This is perhaps the deepest damage of all, because it happened in God's name, by people who claimed Him. The wound did not stay contained to those people. It spread, until praying feels different now, until the Bible feels complicated, until you cannot tell whether your anger is at the people or at God Himself, until the faith that was once a comfort has become a source of pain because it is so wound up with the ones who hurt you. You may have found yourself unable to do the things that once fed your soul, unable to sing, to pray, to open the book, because all of it now carries the fingerprints of the people who wounded you. That is the cruelest theft of church hurt, that it can rob you not only of a community, but of God Himself, by tangling Him up with the very people who failed you. And this is why church hurt can feel like a wound with no exit. Because the very thing that would normally comfort you in your pain has become a source of the pain. When most people are hurt, they can turn to their faith for comfort. But when your faith itself is the wounded place, when prayer reminds you of the people who prayed over you before they betrayed you, when the Bible reminds you of the verses they used against you, when worship reminds you of the room where it all happened, then the usual refuge is closed to you, and you are left grieving without the consolation you would normally run to. It is like being injured and then finding that the hospital itself is part of what hurt you. If you have felt that strange and lonely homelessness, cut off from the very comfort you most need because it has been poisoned for you, understand that this is one of the deepest and most disorienting features of this particular wound. And it is not a sign that your faith was never real. It is a sign that something precious was damaged by people who had no right to damage it, and that, with time and gentleness and the patient nearness of God Himself, can be healed and given back to you, untangled at last from the hands that stained it. Now, before I go a step further, let me say something to the guilt that so often rides along with this wound. Because many of you have been made to feel that the hurt is your fault. Perhaps you were told you were bitter, unforgiving, divisive, that you were the problem, that a real Christian would just get over it, would forgive and come back and stop causing trouble. Perhaps you have wondered yourself whether you are simply too sensitive, whether you should have been able to absorb it, whether your inability to just move on is a sign of weak faith. Let me set that burden down for you. Being wounded is not a sin, and the wound is not evidence of your failure. The people who tell a hurting person that their pain is the problem are very often the same kind of people who caused the pain. Your hurt is real. It is legitimate, and naming it honestly is not bitterness. It is the first step toward healing. You are allowed to have been hurt. You are allowed to still be hurting. That is not a character flaw. That is a wound that deserves care. Let me show you that God's own word does not flinch from this pain. That one of the rawest cries in all the scriptures is the cry of exactly this wound. There was a man, a king named David, who knew betrayal, not from an enemy, but from a trusted friend. And listen to how he put it, because he could have been speaking for you. He said, "It was not an enemy that reproached me. Then I could have borne it. If it had been a foe, an outsider, someone who had always hated me, I could have braced for it and endured it. But," he says, It was thou, a man mine equal, my guide and mine acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together, and walked unto the house of God in company. We walked to the house of God together. We worshipped side by side. We shared the deepest things. And it was you, my friend, my companion in faith, who turned on me. Do you hear how exactly that names your wound? David is telling us that the betrayal that comes from a fellow worshiper, a companion in faith, someone you walked into the house of God beside, is a category of pain all its own, sharper than anything an enemy could inflict. And God put that cry in the Bible, preserved it, so that you would know that this specific wound, the wound of being betrayed by someone you worshipped alongside, is seen by Him, named by Him, and held by Him as real. Sit with the tenderness of that for a moment. The God you are wounded toward did not look at David's situation and think it too petty or too personal to matter. He did not say, "You should be more concerned with my kingdom than with your hurt feelings about a friend." He took the betrayal seriously enough to enshrine its cry in His eternal word, where it has comforted the betrayed for thousands of years. So whatever voice has told you that your church wound is too small to bother God with, that you are being self-absorbed to still be hurting over it, that God has bigger things to attend to than your broken trust, hear the answer the Bible itself gives. Your God considers the wound of betrayal important enough to put in His book. He does not minimize what the people of God did to you. He takes it as seriously as you do, more seriously. And He has preserved the words of the betrayed precisely so that you would not have to suffer this in silence, thinking it did not matter to Him. It matters. You matter. The wound is real, and it is on the heart of God. And notice what David did with that wound, because it shows you the way through. He did not pretend it did not hurt. He did not bury it or perform a serene forgiveness He did not feel. He took the raw, furious, heartbroken truth of it, and He poured it out to God. "As for me," He said, "I will call upon God. Evening and morning and at noon will I pray and cry aloud, and He shall hear my voice." He brought the whole bleeding mess of it straight to God, again and again, morning and noon and night, and trusted that God heard him. That is the first and most important thing. When the people who represented God wound you, you can still bring the wound to God Himself, who is not the same as them, and who hears the cry of the betrayed. And notice where that pouring out took David. He did not take his betrayal and go act on it himself, did not let it curdle into a private campaign of revenge. He took it to God and left it there, trusting God to be the judge he himself could not be. There is a profound protection in that. The betrayed heart desperately wants justice, wants the wrong acknowledged, and when that justice does not come from people, the temptation is to seize it ourselves, to nurse the grievance, to rehearse the wrong, to let the desire for vindication slowly consume us. David shows another way. Bring it to God. Pour out even the rage, and then entrust the whole matter, the wrong and the wrongdoer, and your need for justice, to the one who sees all and judges rightly. You do not have to carry the impossible weight of being your own judge and avenger. You can set the case down before God, who has not missed a single thing that was done to you, and who will, in His own time and way, set all things right. That release is not letting them off the hook. It is moving the hook from your hands to His, where it belongs, and where it will not poison you to hold it. And there is something profoundly freeing in seeing that this cry made it into the scriptures at all. God did not edit out David's bitterness, did not tidy up the raw fury and grief of betrayal into something more polite before he let it into his book. He left it there, unvarnished, the anguished words of a man whose trusted friend had turned on him. As if to say to every wounded believer who would ever come after, "You do not have to clean up your pain before you bring it to me. You do not have to pretend it does not hurt. You do not have to forgive before you have even finished bleeding." The honesty itself is welcome here. So if you have felt that your faith requires you to swallow the hurt, to put on a brave and spiritual face, to deny how deep the betrayal cut because good Christians are supposed to be over it, look at David and let yourself off that hook. The most worshipful king in the scriptures wrote down his betrayal in all its rawness, and God preserved it as scripture. Your honest anguish is not the opposite of faith. In the hands of God, poured out to Him, it is one of the truest forms of faith there is. Let me pause here for a moment, because I know that for some of you, this wound has done damage that goes very deep. Deep enough that it has shaken your faith to its foundations. Deep enough that some nights you wonder whether you can hold on to God at all. If the pain has grown that heavy, please do not carry it alone in the dark. Find one safe person, a trusted friend, a counselor, someone outside the situation who can help you carry it. And if the despair has grown deeper than the wound, reach out to someone who can walk closely with you, or a helpline in your country. And if what was done to you involved real abuse, please know that you are not required to endure it. That seeking safety and help and even justice is not unspiritual. That God is not asking you to stay where you are being harmed. If it would help, you can write one word in the comments, just the word "here," so you can see how many others carry this same hidden wound tonight, and know you are not alone in it. You are not. Now let me tell you about a man who was thrown out of his church, and what happened next. Because it is the most important thing in this whole message. In the Gospels, there was a man who had been born blind, and Jesus healed him, gave him sight for the first time in his life. You would think this would be cause for nothing but rejoicing, but the religious leaders of his day were threatened by Jesus, and so, instead of rejoicing with this man, they dragged him in for interrogation. They questioned him, pressured him, tried to get him to deny that Jesus had done anything good. And this man, newly able to see, simply told the truth. "I was blind, and now I see." He would not deny what had been done for him. And so the religious leaders, the spiritual authorities, the keepers of the house of God, did the thing that wounds so many of you. They cast him out. They threw him out of the synagogue, excommunicated him, cut him off from the only spiritual community he had ever known, declared him unwelcome, unworthy, no longer one of them. Picture him standing outside, freshly healed and freshly rejected, cast out by the very people who were supposed to represent God. Alone. And notice the quiet courage of this man, because it is a courage available to you too. When they pressured him, when they tried to make him deny his own experience of Jesus, when they brought all their religious authority to bear to get him to recant, he did not crumble. He held to the one thing he knew for certain. "One thing I know," he said, "that whereas I was blind, now I see." He did not have all the answers. He could not win a theological argument with the trained religious experts who were interrogating him, but he would not let them talk him out of what God had actually done in his own life. They could throw him out, but they could not make him deny the truth he had lived. And there is something in that for you. The people who hurt you may have all the religious language, all the confidence, all the standing in the community. They may make you feel that they are the experts and you are the one in the wrong. But you, too, have things you know. The real moments when God met you. The truth that no amount of their pressure can erase. Hold on to what you actually know of God from your own life. The genuine encounters. The real grace you have tasted. And do not let anyone, however authoritative, talk you out of it. One thing you know. Let them throw you out if they must. They cannot take what God Himself has shown you. But the story does not end at the door they shut. Here is the line I want you to carry out of this hour, the line that is for you. The scripture says that Jesus heard that they had cast him out, and when he had found him, he spoke to him. Jesus heard that they had cast him out, and Jesus went and found him. The religious leaders threw the man out, and Jesus, the one they claimed to serve, went looking for the very one they had discarded, sought him out where he stood rejected and alone, and found him, and revealed himself to him, and the man fell down and worshipped. Do you see it? The ones who claimed to speak for God shut the door on him, but God Himself was not behind that door with them. God Himself was outside, in the cold, where they had cast the wounded man, coming to find him. That is the truth that can begin to untangle your faith from your wound. The people who threw you out are not God, and when they shut the door on you, God did not stay inside with them. He came looking for you in the very place they cast you out to. And look closer at why they cast him out, because it matters. They did not throw him out for doing wrong. They threw him out for telling the truth, for refusing to deny the good that God had done in his life, for not playing along with their agenda. He was punished for his honesty, excommunicated for his integrity. And that, too, is the story of many of you. You were not pushed out because you were the problem. You were pushed out because you asked the honest question, because you would not pretend, because you saw something wrong and could not unsee it, because you refused to go along with what your conscience could not accept. The religious crowd called that being divisive, being difficult, being unsubmissive. Heaven called it integrity. And the one who sees the heart did not look at that cast-out man and see a troublemaker who got what he deserved. He saw a man of honesty whom his own people had wronged, and he went straight to him. If you were thrown out for your honesty, understand that you stand exactly where that man stood, and that the verdict of the religious crowd is not the verdict of God, and that the same Jesus is even now walking toward you, not to scold you for being thrown out, but to find you. And to show you that this is not only an ancient story, that God still keeps faith with those the religious establishment wounds, let me tell you about a man named John Bunyan. He was a preacher in England long ago, and the religious authorities of his day did not approve of him, because he preached outside their approved structures, and so they threw him into prison. He was kept there not for months, but for 12 long years, separated from his wife and his children, one of whom, a little girl, was blind. And the thought of her, he said, was like the pulling of the flesh from his bones. He could have walked free at almost any time. All he had to do was agree to stop preaching, to submit to the religious authorities who had jailed him. He refused, again and again, year after year, choosing prison over betraying his conscience. The religious establishment had done its worst to him, wounded him deeply, taken his freedom and his family, and a dozen years of his life. All in the name of God and order and the church. And here is the thing that should speak straight to your wound. Bunyan did not let the people who hurt him in religion's name turn him against God. He could have. He had every reason to grow bitter, to conclude that if this was what God's representatives were like, then he wanted nothing to do with their God. But he made a different choice. He held on to the distinction between the God he loved and the men who had wronged him. And in that prison cell, cut off from everything, he wrote that Jesus Christ was never more real and apparent to him than there. There, he said, he had seen him and felt him indeed. The very place the religious authorities meant for his harm became the place where he met God most deeply, because he would not let their failure define his God. He came out of that prison not bitter, but deepened, and what he wrote in that cell has comforted more hurting people across the centuries than all his persecutors ever touched. The ones who wounded him did not get the last word. His faithfulness did. And his God did. And notice the choice he had to make, because it is the same choice set before you. When religious people wound you in God's name, they hand you, along with the wound, a terrible temptation. To let them have not only your trust and your community, but your God as well. The reasoning feels almost irresistible in the moment. If these are God's people, and they are like this, then their God must be like this too, and I am done with all of it. That is the logic the wound whispers, and it would have been so easy for Bunyan to follow it, to let the men who jailed him take his faith along with his freedom. But he refused to give them that. He would not let the people who wronged him in God's name also rob him of the God they had misrepresented. He drew a line. You may take my freedom, my comfort, my years, but you will not take my Christ, because my Christ is not you. And in refusing to let them have his God, he kept the one thing that turned his prison into a place of meeting rather than a place of despair. That same choice is yours. The people who hurt you can take a great deal, but they cannot have your God unless you hand him over to them. And you do not have to. You can refuse, as Bunyan did, to let the ones who wounded you in his name also steal him from you. And there is a deeper mystery in his story that can give the wounded a strange and stubborn hope. The very prison the religious authorities meant for his harm became the place where he met God most deeply and wrote the words that would outlive and outshine everything his persecutors ever did. What they intended to silence him produced the book that has spoken to more souls than any sermon he could have preached free. This is not to pretend the suffering was good, or to tie a neat bow on 12 stolen years. The harm was real, and the cost was terrible. But it is to say that God has a long habit of taking the very wounds the church inflicts and, without excusing them, weaving them into something redemptive, so that the place of your deepest religious hurt can become, in time, the place of your deepest knowing of God. Many people who have walked through church hurt say, years later, that as devastating as it was, it stripped away a shallow, second-hand, performance-based faith and drove them to a real and personal God they might never have found while everything was comfortable. That does not justify what was done to you, But it does mean that even this, even the wound the church left, is not beyond God's power to redeem, and that the cell they meant to break you in may yet become the room where you finally meet Him face to face. So let me tell you what is actually true. The truth that all of this is circling around, because it is the key that can begin to set you free. God is not the people who hurt you. The church that wounded you is not the same as the Christ it claimed to represent. The people who failed you, betrayed you, abused their authority, cast you out, were broken and sinful human beings, sometimes deeply wicked ones, and they do not define God any more than a forged signature defines the person whose name was forged. When someone wounds you in God's name, they are not showing you God, they are misrepresenting Him. And the proof is in the life of Jesus Himself, who saved His gentlest words for the wounded and the outcast, and His harshest words for exactly the kind of religious hypocrites who hurt people in God's name. He called them out, openly, fiercely. He said it would be better for someone to be thrown into the sea with a millstone around their neck than to harm one of His little ones. Hear that? The one you are afraid you have lost is furious at what was done to you. He is not standing with the people who wounded you. He is standing with you, against them, grieved by what they did in His name, and longing to show you that He is nothing like them. And here is something that may be the most comforting truth in this whole hour. Jesus Himself was a victim of church hurt. Let that sink in. The religious establishment of His day, the official keepers of the house of God, watched Him heal and teach and love, and they hated Him for it, plotted against Him, twisted His words, accused Him falsely, and finally used their religious authority to have Him killed. He was betrayed by one of His own inner circle, denied by another, abandoned by the rest, and condemned by the religious leaders who claimed to speak for the very God He was. So when you bring your church wound to Jesus, you are not bringing it to someone who cannot understand, who will look at you blankly and tell you to get over it. You are bringing it to the one person in all of history who was most deeply wounded by religious people misusing God's name, who knows from the inside the precise pain of being betrayed by a trusted companion and rejected by the spiritual authorities, who has stood exactly where you are standing. He does not merely sympathize from a distance, He has felt it. And that means the God you are wounded toward is also the God who understands your wound more intimately than any other being in existence. Because He, too, was hurt by the church. So when you come to Him with this particular pain, you are not coming to a stranger who will fumble for words. You are coming to the one heart that has been broken in exactly the way yours has been broken. He knows the specific ache of watching people use sacred things for cruel ends, of having your words twisted by religious authorities, of being sold out by a friend who had shared your table and your prayers. He carried all of that to the cross, so that there would be a God who could meet the church wounded with perfect understanding and perfect tenderness. There is no loneliness in your wound that He has not already entered. No part of this you will have to explain to Him. He was there first, in His own flesh, and He has been waiting at the place of your rejection ever since. The wounded God, ready to bind up the wounded soul. The one who was cast out by the religious, now keeping company, by preference, with everyone else they have cast out. And He is the friend who will never betray you. The one David learned to run to when his earthly friend turned on him. Every human community will fail you to some degree. because every human community is made of failing humans. But God Himself will never abuse your trust, never turn on you, never cast you out. The scripture says He heals the broken in heart and binds up their wounds. And that is exactly what He longs to do with the wound the church left in you, to bind it up gently with His own hands, the hands of the one who was himself rejected by the religious leaders of his day, who was betrayed by one of his own, who knows from the inside exactly what it is to be wounded by the people of God, and who therefore understands your wound as no one else possibly could. And He does not only understand it, He moves toward it to heal it. There is a line in the Psalms that has carried countless wounded believers, and it says simply that He heals the broken in heart and binds up their wounds. Binds up their wounds. The image is of a gentle physician kneeling beside the injured, carefully cleaning and wrapping the wound. The slow and tender work of healing what was torn. That is what God longs to do with the wound the church left in you. Not to scold you for still being hurt, not to rush you past it, but to kneel down beside you and begin the patient work of binding it up, of cleaning out the infection of bitterness, of restoring what was damaged, of giving you back, in time, the faith and the trust and the capacity to belong that the wounders stole. It does not happen all at once. Deep wounds heal slowly, and there may be scars, but the healer is real, and He is gentle, and He specializes in exactly the kind of wound you carry, the wound of a heart broken by those who should have loved it. Let Him near it. Let Him begin. So let me speak now to the lies that this wound has been whispering to you in the dark. It tells you that all of it was fake, that all Christians are hypocrites, that the whole thing is a sham. But the failure of some, even the grievous failure of the ones who hurt you, does not prove that all of it was false. There are, scattered through the world, true and humble followers of Christ who would have wept over what was done to you, who bear no resemblance to the ones who wounded you, who are quietly living out the real thing. The hypocrites you encountered are not the whole story, and they are certainly not Christ. Do not let the false ones who hurt you convince you that the true thing does not exist. It does, and it looks nothing like what wounded you. Think of it this way. The existence of counterfeit money does not prove there is no real money. In fact, it proves the opposite, because no one counterfeits what has no value. The very fact that there are false and hypocritical versions of faith, people wearing it as a costume to gain power or to hide their cruelty, is a backhanded testimony that there is a real thing worth imitating, a genuine article precious enough that frauds attach themselves to it. The hypocrites did not invent the faith they abused. They borrowed its language and its trust because those things had real value, and then they betrayed that value. So the wound they gave you, painful as it is not proof that it was all a lie. It is proof that something real and good was misused by people who had no right to it. Somewhere, quietly, far from the spotlight, there are people living out the genuine thing, loving the way the hypocrites only pretended to love, and they would grieve over what was done to you. The counterfeit you met does not cancel the genuine article. If anything, it points to it. It tells you that God is like the people who hurt you, cold, judgmental, ready to cast you out. But this is the central lie, and it is the furthest from the truth. God is not like them. He is the one who went and found the man they threw out. He is the one who runs to the returning child while he is still far off. He is the one who welcomes the very people the religious crowd despised. If the picture of God you were given by the people who hurt you is a harsh, rejecting, conditional one, then you were shown a counterfeit. Because the real God came looking for the cast out and ate with the rejected, and was crucified by the religious establishment for loving the wrong people too freely. Do not let the people who hurt you tell you who God is. Let Jesus tell you who God is. And when you let Jesus tell you, here is what you find. You find someone who is endlessly patient with the doubters and the strugglers, who never broke a bruised reed or quenched a smoldering wick, who let a sinful woman weep on his feet while the religious men recoiled, who touched the untouchable and ate with the outcast and called the despised by name. You find someone whose anger was reserved almost entirely for the proud and the hypocritical, and the ones who laid heavy burdens on other people's backs. You find someone who, dying, forgave his executioners, and who, risen, sought out the very friend who had denied him, not to shame him, but to restore him. That is the face of God. Not cold, not harsh, not eager to cast out, not keeping a ledger of your failures, not disgusted by your weakness, but tender, patient, seeking, forgiving, drawn to exactly the wounded and the rejected and the struggling. If the God you were handed by the people who hurt you looks nothing like that, then set that false God down, because it is not the real one. The real one has the face of Jesus, and that face, turned toward you right now, is not wearing the expression you have been afraid of. It tells you that you are the problem, the bitter one, the unforgiving one, that your wound is your own fault. But you have already heard the truth about that. Being hurt is not a sin, and naming your pain is not bitterness. The God who put David's raw cry of betrayal in the Bible is not ashamed of your honest hurt, and he does not stand among those who tell you to just get over it. Your pain is legitimate. Your wound is real. And healing begins not by denying it, but by bringing it honestly to the only one who can truly bind it up. There is an old and cruel trick in this, where the ones who caused the harm reframe your reaction to it as the real problem, so that the conversation shifts from what they did to how you responded, from their offense to your bitterness, until somehow you are the one on trial. It is a way of avoiding accountability, and it is as old as wrongdoing itself. Do not fall for it. The fact that you are wounded is not the scandal. The wounding is the scandal. The fact that you are angry is not the sin. The betrayal that produced the anger is the sin. A person who has been genuinely hurt and who is honestly struggling with it is not a problem to be fixed or a rebel to be corrected. They are a wounded person who deserves compassion. So when the accusation rises, when the old voices or your own internalized guilt tell you that you are just bitter, just difficult, just unforgiving, answer it with the truth. I was wounded, and my struggle is the natural response of a heart that was hurt. And God does not condemn me for it. The shame belongs to the ones who caused the harm, not to the one who is trying to heal from it. It tells you that God let it happen, and so he must not care, or must not be good, or must have been on their side all along. This is one of the hardest questions of all, and I will not pretend to fully answer it in an hour. But hear this much: God's allowing of human freedom, even the freedom to do terrible harm in his name, is not the same as God approving of that harm. He gives people real freedom, and some of them use it monstrously. And his not striking them down in the moment is not his endorsement. It is the same restraint that lets the whole broken world keep turning until he sets it right. And the scriptures are clear about where he stands, not with the abusers, but with the abused. Not with the powerful who crush, but with the crushed. Close, it says, to the broken-hearted. He was not on the side of the ones who hurt you. He was the one weeping with you. The one whose anger burned against what was done. The one who, in Jesus, chose to be on the receiving end of religious cruelty rather than the dealing end of it. He did not stop your wound by overriding the freedom of the ones who caused it. But do not read his restraint as indifference. He felt every blow of it with you. And he has promised that every hidden thing will one day be brought into the light and set right. His silence then was not his absence, and it was certainly not his siding with them. And it tells you that you can never belong anywhere again, that you have lost your place, that there is no home left for you. But the loss of a false or wounding community is not the loss of all community, and the God who seeks the cast out is even now able to lead you, in time and at your own pace, to people who are safe, to a family that will not wound you the way the last one did. You do not have to rush back anywhere. You do not have to go back to where you were hurt. But do not let the wound convince you that you are destined to be alone forever. The shepherd who came looking for you is also, gently, in his time, able to bring you home. There are, in this world, healthy places too. Even though you may struggle to believe it right now, there are communities where the leaders do not lord it over people, where questions are welcomed rather than punished, where the broken are carried rather than judged, where you would be safe. They are quieter and less flashy than the places that wound, and they can be harder to find, and you may not be ready to look for a long while, and that is all right. But they exist, and your bad experience, however terrible, is not the only model of what God's people can be. Do not let the worst example you encountered become, in your mind, the definition of the whole thing. Take all the time you need. Heal first. You do not owe anyone your return on any timeline but your own. But hold the door open, just a crack, to the possibility that somewhere down the road, when you are ready, there may be a table where you are genuinely welcome. A few safe people who will love you the way the others should have. A place to belong again that will not cost you another wound. The shepherd who found the cast-out man did not leave him standing alone outside the door. In time, he gathers his own. So what do you do when the church has wounded you? A few gentle things for healing without losing your faith. Hold tightly to the distinction between God and the people who failed you, because everything depends on it. When the wound rises up, when prayer feels poisoned and the old songs hurt, gently remind yourself, that was them, not him. The people misrepresented God. They were not God. Keep separating, in your mind and your heart, the Christ you went looking for from the people who got in the way. Because the great danger of church hurt is that it makes you throw away God along with the people who wounded you. And you do not have to. You can let go of them and keep Him. You can leave the people who hurt you and run toward the God they misrepresented. This is hard, holy work, and it does not happen in a moment. It happens slowly, 1,000 small times, as you gently catch your mind in the act of blaming God for what people did, and gently correct it. When the bitterness rises and starts to spread toward heaven, You stop and you say, "No, that was a person, a broken person, not my God." When a verse the abuser twisted comes back to wound you, you reclaim it. You let God show you what it actually means in His mouth rather than in theirs. When the songs hurt, you let yourself grieve the association, and then, in time, you take the songs back, because they were never really theirs. They were always about Him. Piece by piece, you peel God free from the fingerprints the wounders left all over Him, and you give Him back His true face, the face of the one who heals the brokenhearted, not the face of the ones who broke yours. It is patient work, and some days you will fail at it and let the tangle reform, and that is all right. You simply begin again. But every time you separate the Christ you love from the people who failed you, you take back a little more of what they stole, until one day you find that you can pray again, and it is only Him there, and the wounders are gone from the room. And in the meantime, build a small, private faith that belongs only to you and God, away from the structures that wounded you. You do not need a building or a platform or anyone's approval to be with God. The man Jesus found was alone outside the synagogue when he met God most truly. So in this season, let your faith become quiet and personal and direct. Read a few words of the Scriptures for yourself, slowly, letting God speak to you without anyone standing between you to tell you what it must mean. Talk to Him in your own plain words, on a walk, in the car, in the dark before sleep. Let it be just the two of you for a while, with no performance and no one watching to judge whether you are doing it right. There is something almost healing in discovering that your faith was never actually dependent on those people or that place, that God is just as near, perhaps nearer, in the quiet privacy of a wounded heart turning toward Him alone. The institution may have failed you, but the direct line to God was never theirs to grant or revoke. It is still open. Use it, simply, in secret, and let Him rebuild your faith from the inside, on a foundation no one can ever cast you out of. Pour out the honest wound to God, all of it, the way David did. Do not perform a forgiveness you do not feel or bury an anger that is real. Tell God exactly how betrayed you feel, how angry, how confused, how close to losing your faith. He can hold all of it. The Bible is full of His people crying out raw and unfiltered. Bringing the wound to God again and again, morning and noon and night, is not a lack of faith. It is the very thing that keeps the wound from hardening into a bitterness that imprisons you. Lament is allowed. Anger, brought to God, is allowed. Pour it out. And a gentle word about forgiveness, since it hangs over this wound and has so often been weaponized against the hurting. Forgiveness is not what you have been told it is. It is not saying that what happened was acceptable. It is not pretending it did not hurt. It is not trusting the person again, or going back, or dropping the boundaries that keep you safe. Forgiveness, in time, and it may take a long time, is simply the slow release of the right to revenge, the gradual handing over to God of the debt you are owed, so that the people who hurt you stop living rent-free in your mind, controlling you from a distance through your resentment. It is something you do, eventually, not for their sake, but for your own freedom, so the wound stops being an open wire you touch 100 times a day. And here is the most important part. You do not have to do it yet. You cannot force forgiveness, and a forced, premature forgiveness is not the real thing anyway. You can be honest with God that you are nowhere near it, that right now all you have is the anger and the hurt, and He will not condemn you for that. Forgiveness is a destination you walk toward slowly, often over years, with God's help. Not a switch you are required to flip tonight. For now, it is enough to bring the wound to Him honestly. The releasing can come later, in its own time, when you are ready. Protect yourself, and know that it is not unspiritual to do so. You are not required to return to the place that wounded you, not required to keep exposing yourself to people who harmed you, not required to call abuse forgiveness or to mistake the absence of boundaries for grace. Forgiveness, when it comes, in time, is for your own freedom, so the ones who hurt you do not get to keep living in your head. It is not the same as trust, and it does not mean going back. And it does not mean what was done was acceptable. You can forgive someone and still keep a locked door between you. Protecting yourself from further harm is not bitterness. It is wisdom, and God gives you full permission for it. And let me be very plain about this, because false guilt has kept too many wounded people trapped. God is not asking you to make yourself available to be hurt again in the name of grace. The teaching that a faithful Christian must always stay, always submit, always absorb the harm and call it turning the other cheek has been used to keep victims in harm's way, and it is a distortion. Even Jesus, on more than one occasion, slipped away from those who meant him harm when his time had not yet come. He did not throw himself into every danger in the name of meekness. You are allowed to walk away from what is hurting you. You are allowed to block the number, leave the group, decline the meeting, keep the distance your safety requires. You are allowed to say, "I forgive you, and I am also never putting myself back within your reach." None of that is a failure of faith or a lack of love. It is the basic, God-given wisdom of a person stewarding the one heart and one life they have been given. Guard your heart, the scriptures say, for out of it flow the issues of life. Guarding it is not unspiritual, it is obedience. And let the shepherd find you where you are. You do not have to climb back over the wall they threw you over to get back to God. He has already come out to where you are. So, in your own time, in your own way, even with all your wounds and questions and anger, let Him near. You do not have to have it all sorted out. Do not have to be over it. Do not have to be back in any building. You only have to let the one who went looking for the cast-out man come and find you. In the cold, outside the door they shut, exactly where you are tonight. And do not wait until you have your faith all rebuilt before you let Him near. That is backward. You do not have to resolve your anger, answer all your questions, or feel anything in particular before God can come to you. In fact, the coming of God is usually what begins the healing, not the reward for having already healed. So you can come to Him exactly as you are tonight, full of doubt, full of hurt, unable to pray a proper prayer, not even sure you still believe. And that is enough. The man born blind did not have his theology sorted out when Jesus found him. He had only been thrown out and left alone, and Jesus came anyway. You can simply say, in the rawest and most broken way, even with clenched fists, "I am here. I am hurt. And if you are real, and if you are not like them, then come and find me." That is a prayer God delights to answer. He is not waiting for you to clean yourself up or get over it. He is already walking toward you. And the only thing required of you is to let Him come. And here is the one caution I would add to all this talk of protecting yourself, offered gently, because it is for your own sake. In building the walls you need to keep out the people who hurt you, be careful not to accidentally wall out God, too. After a deep betrayal, the heart learns to trust no one, to keep everyone at a safe distance. And that instinct, wise as it is toward the ones who wounded you, can quietly harden into a wall against everyone, including the very God who wants to heal you. The danger is that in protecting the wound, you seal it shut with God on the outside, and then you wonder why the healing never comes. So guard yourself against people, yes, fiercely, as you should, but leave one small door open, just for Him. Let the one who was himself cast out, the one who is safe in a way no human community ever fully is, past the wall. You do not have to lower your guard toward the people who proved untrustworthy. But do not let your right and necessary wariness of them become a wall that shuts out the only one whose love could never betray you. Keep them out if you must, but let Him in. Let me leave you with this, and then I will let you go gently into your night. Picture the man they cast out of the synagogue, standing alone outside the door that had just been shut in his face, rejected by everyone he had known, by the keepers of the house of God, cut off, discarded in the cold. And then, into that aloneness, the sound of footsteps. Someone is coming, not to finish the rejection, not to pile on more shame, but to find him. It is Jesus, who heard that they had cast him out and came looking. And the first face that wounded man saw after being thrown out by the religious was the face of God Himself, come to find him. That is the picture I want to leave with you. The people who claimed to speak for God may have shut a door on you, may have cast you out, may have wounded you in His holy name. But God did not stay inside that door with them. He never does. He is out here, in the cold, where they cast you, and He is coming to find you. And He is not angry with you, and He is not ashamed of you, and He has not cast you out. He has come looking for you. The voice you are about to hear in your wound is not the voice of the ones who hurt you. It is the voice of the one who heard that they had cast you out, and went looking, and found you, and is even now kneeling down beside you in the place they left you, to say, "You are not cast out by me. You never were. I have come to take you home." So let the door they shut behind you stay shut for now, if it must. You do not need it. The God you were looking for was never only in that building, never the property of the people who guarded it, never as small as the ones who claimed to own Him. He is the one out here in the cold with you, the one who has always preferred the company of the wounded and the rejected, the one who was himself thrown out by the religious, and who turned the place of his rejection into the place where the whole world was saved. He is not behind the door. He is beside you. And the wound that the church left in you, deep as it is not the end of your story with Him. It may, if you let Him near it, become the very place where you finally come to know Him as He truly is, no longer hidden behind the faces of the people who misrepresented Him, but seen at last, face to face, gentle and faithful, and yours. Rest now, wounded and beloved one. The ones who hurt you did not get the last word. God did. And His word over you is not rejection. It is found.